I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, a couple weeks ago I told you guys about that website, stories.com. Really fantastic website giving you all kinds of information on lots that have been sold in Vancouver, downtown, east side, redevelopment potential, parks that might be going in. It talks about where they're going to be building social housing developments in the city, where those have now been planned and where when they're going to start construction. Good stuff to know. You know, if you have a house in the neighborhood and they're going to be building a 10-story social housing building beside it, hey, you know, on that note, I just sold a duplex on Vernon Drive in Mount Pleasant this summer. And I just noticed in stories now, this is basically at, well, it's near Clark Drive and Hastings. On Hastings was a large parcel of land. It's a bunch of dilapidated buildings there. But I sold this half duplex. I just saw in stories here that now they've zoned it for an 18-story social housing building directly behind the house that I sold. I wasn't aware of it, but then I don't think anybody was. It was just announced in stories. So myself and my seller got a good laugh at that. It's going to be under a construction zone there for quite some time. And again, that's a very tall building directly behind the alley from the house that I just sold. So that's why I keep tabs on this stories.com. But a story in there last week, I don't know if you guys saw, I think the Vancouver Sun picked this up as well. The McDonald's, the big McDonald's at the corner of Main Street and Terminal was sold. McDonald's Canada sold it. They sold it for $80 million. And the buyer is a company called Greystar. They are going to build a rental tower on there, 2 rental towers, mid-rise. I think they're about, they're 22-story and an 18-story. With a podium level in between, but they paid $80 million for it. So the point I want to make here, some people say, Owen, do you own any real estate investment trusts, REITs? And no, I don't. I'm not a fan of REITs at all. I have dabbled a little bit in them years and years ago, was not very happy with the return, got a decent little dividend on it, but the appreciation never went anywhere. But I like to own the real thing. I own tangible real estate that I can own, I use the leverage on it, and I control it. But if you want to get into REITs, the best REIT going, in my opinion, is McDonald's, the hamburger chain. I talk about this in my book. I dedicate a couple of pages to McDonald's. So, you know, McDonald's, I've owned McDonald's now for probably close to 20 years. It's now a pretty major holding for my portfolio. I'll be right up front. I own over $250,000, over $250,000 in McDonald's. I've built that up over 20 years. I think I bought about 10 shares starting 20 years ago. I buy 50 shares here, 100 shares there. So I built it up to a pretty sizable position in my stock portfolio. All of it is in my RRSP, US RRSP. Pays me a nice dividend. It's running right now about 3% yield. They've increased that dividend. McDonald's is what they call a dividend aristocrat. So pays a decent dividend, but has a long track history, over 25 years of increasing that dividend like clockwork. And they've increased it over the years anywhere from maybe 4.5% to up to 10 or 11% in a good year. So as of now, I'm probably getting, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $10,000 US every year comes into my brokerage account from McDonald's. And I usually just take that $10,000 and I reinvest it. It comes in quarterly, so let's call it $2,500 every 3 months. And I'll usually put that money back to work into maybe a little bit more McDonald's, or I'll buy some Apple or some Johnson & Johnson or some Berkshire Hathaway or whatever I think is a good fit for my portfolio. But, you know, I can tell you that if you read my book, and I've talked about this in blogs years and years ago, you know, these holdings with McDonald's, this piece of property that they own at Main and Terminal, I don't know the exact amount that's held on the books, but McDonald's does not adjust the property appreciation on the real estate they hold. McDonald's owns billions of dollars in real estate. They own a large percentage of the restaurants. They own the land. And then in a lot of cases, they lease that land and that store to a franchisee. But a lot of the real estate, or pretty much all of it, is on the cost at book value, what they paid for it. And you can read all kinds of incredible stories on McDonald's. They've got properties in Midtown Manhattan in, you know, absolutely incredibly valuable pieces of property that are on the books at $3, $4, $5 million that are probably market value $150 million. So it wouldn't surprise me if this was probably on the books at McDonald's Canada at $5 or $6 million, and they just sold it for $80 million. So hey, I love those stories. That's more money in my pocket, made a nice profit on it. They're going to continue to run that store for quite a few more years before they start construction on this. I would not be surprised if McDonald's has a clause in that deal, because they're smart, that they are allowed to open a new McDonald's within this new development. It would not surprise me. Hey, it would be a perfect location still. You've got now 300 rental units above you. Put a 24-hour McDonald's in there, just like they have in the TV towers down here on Robson Street. McDonald's, wouldn't surprise me at all if that McDonald's, a new one, comes in there with that new development there. But hey, more rentals here, guys. This is another example, though, I've talked about. They're not building much more strata, any more condos. But the NDP is, you know, greenlighting and incentivizing developers to build rental, market rental. Nothing wrong with building more market rental. We need it. We've got a rental shortage as it is, because the NDP have scared off, you know, the best investor or the best properties, which are the mom and pop rentals. Those are far superior than a 100% rental building. I would tell renters, if you're looking for a property, this should be, these rental only buildings should be down at the bottom of your wish list. Start with a strata from a mom and pop investor or landlord like me. Try and get into one of those. But of course, they're rare. You're probably going to have to be really quick to get in on those. But that's where you should be. These rental buildings, nothing wrong with them, but they can be a zoo in these things. You don't know who your neighbor is. Endless moving in and moving out. Parties galore. Marijuana smoke everywhere. You know, illegal Airbnbs that flourish in these type of buildings. This is all well documented. Final thing, just an observation here on the rental buildings that are being built. Go back and watch my blogs. I don't want to keep beating this to death. Nothing getting built as far as condos, but lots of market rental. I have 2 towers going up in the West End where I live, and I can see them from my office window here. You know, these were bought, these 2 rental buildings, they were 2 and 3-story wood frame on the corner of Harwood and Thurlow. These were bought and the buildings were cleared out probably 3 or 4 years ago. They stayed empty. They were going to be condo, stratified condo, and then they got switched to market rental. And they stayed dormant for years. They finally started construction on this, where they started excavating the parking levels about 6 months ago. So I've kind of seen the progress here. They just finally finished digging the pits, digging the 8 stories down for parking, and they put up the cranes now. But boy, it's moving slow. And I have to wonder, these rental buildings, to me, it looks like they're running some sort of a skeleton crew. I know I've got people that watch that are in the construction business, but sometimes I only see 5 or 6 guys on site. And these are going to be 2 33 and 36-story towers. These are big towers. But some days they doesn't seem they're even doing any work. So it is a slope. The way these guys are going, this thing's going to be 5 years before you're going to be moving into it. Now, maybe they're going to pick up the pace. Maybe it's just this first, little segment here that's going slow. I'll keep you posted. But today, I don't think they were working. Today was a Thursday, and it was a skeleton crew. I didn't see the cranes moving. I didn't see anybody working. So, but I often wonder, what kind of resources did they put towards building these rentals? I mean, I know condo and stratified would be priority number 1 for these developers. This, I would think, would take a back seat. But who knows? I'm just throwing it out there, moving slow, not a lot of action going on here right now. But hey, 2 new towers coming to the West End, market rental. You can get a 500 square foot unit coming soon for around $3,200 or $3,300 a month. Although by the time these are built and ready for occupancy, it could be $4,000 a month. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. See you next week.